You know, there's a new global competition heating up right now, but it has nothing to do with old ideas like capitalism versus communism. Now, this new scramble for power is about something much more fundamental. It's about computing power, the raw energy needed to fuel it, and the massive amounts of capital that direct where it all blows.
And really, this one simple idea from Elon Musk is the key. It's the key to understanding these colossal shifts that are happening all over the planet, from military strategy up in the Arctic all the way down to the factory floors of the future. It really does all come back to energy.
So that's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to connect the dots. We'll look at AI's absolutely insatiable demand for energy, the huge financial forces that are funding this whole thing, and the very real geopolitical consequences that are literally redrawing the world map as we speak. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, AI data centers are projected to consume somewhere between 10 to 12% of all energy in the United States. That's up from just 2% today. So think about that. We're building these incredible digital brains, but we're basically starving them for power. And that is kicking off a massive global rush for new energy sources.
So who's directing this race? Well, it's not just governments anymore. There's a new force at play here, and it's called transnational capital. You can think of it as this massive, borderless pool of money, from sovereign wealth funds, giant asset managers, that just flows wherever it sees an opportunity. It's reshaping the world based on financial logic, not necessarily old-school national allegiances.
So how does this actually work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. First, these massive funds, say from the Gulf states, they invest heavily in critical Western tech and infrastructure. That investment buys them a seat at the table, giving them real influence over corporate and even government policy. And before you know it, geopolitics starts following the money. It creates a world where a decision made in a boardroom in Saudi Arabia can actually influence policy in Washington.
Okay, so the first major consequence of all this is that the race for AI resources is physically changing the map of the world. It's creating new strategic flashpoints in some pretty unexpected places.
For example, let me ask you this. Why is everyone suddenly talking about Greenland? This isn't just about melting ice. It's actually a perfect case study of how the abstract needs of the AI race are creating tangible, real-world military tensions. It all starts with a bit of old-school geography. See, Greenland anchors one side of what military strategists call the GIUK gap. This is the main bottleneck that Russia's super-powerful Northern Fleet submarines have to pass through to get out into the open Atlantic. So controlling this gap means you can keep an eye on one of the most formidable nuclear fleets on the entire planet. But it's so much more than that. Greenland is this multi-layered strategic prize. It's not just the gap, it also hosts critical U.S. missile defense radars. It holds these huge untapped deposits of rare earth minerals, which are crucial for tech, and it sits right on top of new shipping routes. And to top it all off, a new deal between the U.S. and Denmark gives America pretty much unlimited military access. Now, when you look at who is actually there, the picture gets pretty stark. Russia has built up this massive network of permanent military bases all across the Arctic. Meanwhile, NATO's presence, it's much, much smaller, mostly symbolic rotational deployments. This imbalance is exactly what's fueling so much of the tension in the region. Okay, let's shift gears. We've been looking at the geopolitical chessboard, but let's zoom in now, all the way down to the factory floor. Because while all these nations are scrambling for resources, AI is quietly leaving the digital cloud and taking on a physical form. You know, the big story at recent tech shows isn't some new app or piece of software, it's hardware. For years, AI was just this promise in a PowerPoint slide, right? Well, not anymore. It's now being embodied in these incredibly sophisticated robots that are going to bring real change to the physical world. And there is no better example of this than the new Atlas robot from Boston Dynamics. I mean, just look at these specs. This is a fully electric humanoid, almost 2 meters tall. It can lift 50 kilograms, and, get this, it has joints that can rotate a full 360 degrees. This isn't some science project anymore. It is slated for actual deployment in Hyundai auto plants. This is the physical version of the AI revolution, and it's here now. So, we have this intense race for energy, and we have real-world physical robots. But what's paying for it all? I mean, where does the money come from? Let's take a look at the financial architecture that's making this whole high-stakes game possible. According to analyst Simon Dixon, the sheer scale of investment that's needed for this global AI build-out is so vast, so massive, that it basically has to rely on the continuous creation of new money. And that, as you can imagine, introduces a certain level of instability right into the heart of the system.
To really understand the fragility that's baked into this system, we can look at a small example of how financial safety nets work, deposit insurance. We all know what it is. It's designed to stop bank runs, but it also creates these really complex and kind of contradictory incentives. And this is where it gets fascinating. Research from the World Bank shows that deposit insurance basically has a split personality. During the good times, it encourages what they call moral hazard. Basically, banks take on way too much risk because they know their depositors are protected by the government. But then, in a crisis, it provides a stabilization effect, preventing that panic that can lead to a total systemic collapse.
So, which effect is stronger, the risk-taking or the stabilization? Well, according to the World Bank, the overall effect is actually destabilizing. The risk that gets built up in the normal times outweighs the stability it provides during a crisis. And that suggests the financial system that's fueling this whole AI race has a kind of fragility built right into its DNA.
And this fragility, combined with that global flow of capital we talked about earlier, has led to a pretty staggering shift in influence. As a direct result of these transnational capital flows, a mind-boggling $65 trillion of U.S. assets are now under foreign control. Oh, okay, so we've looked at the incredible demand for energy, the geopolitical hotspots like Greenland, the rise of physical AI robots, and the fragile financial system that's sitting underneath it all. Let's try and put all these pieces together.
So, what are the key things to take away from all this? First, at its core, the AI race is really a race for energy and for capital. Second, this competition creates very real, very tense flashpoints, just like we're seeing up in Greenland. Third, AI is not just code anymore. It's becoming physical robots that are going to completely reshape our world. And finally, remember that all of this is being built on a financial system that, by its very design, generates a significant amount of risk. Which really leaves us with one final and pretty provocative question. As we build this new world, a world powered by artificial intelligence, funded by borderless capital, and soon to be populated by intelligent machines, it really forces us to ask who or what is actually in control.